Yo, what is going on, everybody? It's Brave Cat here once again with another Frontier Signals update. So I've got a few things to discuss here. Starting off with the space weather, it looks like the CME did not miss us. So it was actually more than 24 hours late. And really the only thing indicating that it did actually hit us is going to be the solar proton flux here going up a little bit. Other than that, I would say this is just the coronal hole stream hitting us. So that little spike yesterday that we saw was not the only thing that hit us, and so later on we ended up getting an actual spike in the solar wind. So yeah, it was really, it had me really convinced that the CME entirely missed us based on all the data that we were seeing. So I don't know, I don't really blame myself for thinking that. It really did seem like the case. So I guess it was just, more than 24 hours late. It still barely grazed us, and we do still have, I'm pretty sure, the coronal hole stream affecting what we see going on. And again, the solar proton flux, to the best of my knowledge, appears to be really the only actual evidence that the CME is hitting us. And with that, we do have another flare that happened. It was only in the M range, so not as big. But the CME produced from this flare seems almost identical to the one that was produced from the X1.5. So if we take a look at this, which, I could use these other feeds as well, now that they're here, right? So if we take a look here, we had a couple other flares happen. So we had something going on over here, and then right after we have this bigger M-class flare happening right here. So even though it was in the M range, it does look like, a pretty big flare as well. And if we take a look at the Enlil spiral, it's almost identical kind of situation to what just happened, except now it's on the other side. So it looks like most of it's going to miss us, but it does seem to be, we're going to have some little offshoot from the CME potentially hit us dead on. So not really as dense as the other one, but it looks like something's going to hit us potentially in a couple days from now. So again, we'll see what happens, and I'll try to be patient. If it's more than 24 hours off from the forecasting model, it could still hit us. So just have to see what happens there. And, we've been in a G1 solar storm, hasn't gone into G2. So, that really is about it. The coronal hole is going away. I don't really see anything else too notable happening. We can take a quick look at the magnetogram here. So we haven't really had anything new incoming, just as I figured. And this is what we're looking like for the current sunspot groups. So, not really anything too complex going on here, but this, I'm not sure which region it was that flared off. It was one of these two regions, probably this one if I had to guess, because this one actually has some size to it. And we have this other one here. So once all these go away, I believe we should be relatively in the clear for a little bit. There's a couple of regions developing on the far side potentially, and those are weeks away. So, really today we're just going into the earthquakes here. So this is after the 7.4 hit, and there has been a tremendous amount of aftershocks happening. So I kind of made an X post kind of loosely explaining my theory or whatever. And so we've had, multiple 7s striking this area now, and especially with how many aftershocks there are resulting from this 7, it appears to be a pretty major event that is going to affect the entire plate and the surrounding plates in the Pacific. We already see enhanced volcanic activity, like up here in Kamchatka. There was a 48,000 foot high blast coming from there. So from what I know, that is pretty much the biggest blast ash plume that has happened so far this year, and definitely the biggest one I've seen. So, and there's also been quite an uptick going on over here on the West Coast. So, all right, let's see what this biggest earthquake is here. We've had a 4.5 just south of the Bay Area in San Francisco, 3.9 there, and enhanced tremor activity going across the board. And we take a look at the tremor map, which also reflects these things happening. So we have 423 events that happened yesterday. So we don't have the information for today yet. And, that's the most I've seen in a while here. And again, if this becomes a consistent thing like it has been, then we could be in for a little bit of a watch period here for the West Coast, like I said. So, this could go on for weeks, months. I'm not sure, but it seems pretty likely that, this is just going to keep going, especially with what we see going on the other side of the Pacific. This is really an insane amount of aftershocks for an area. We can go through what has happened here. There's a 6.2 aftershock, which is quite a large aftershock, as well as a whole bunch of upper 5s and 4s. So, okay, what I mean by, what I was kind of theorizing in this area is that, we had the very deep 7 that happened over by Malaysia. That was on, the end of February, so more than a month ago now. And we didn't really see anything like this happen resulting from that immediately. But the thing with tectonic plates is that they have a certain level of elasticity. They can build up stress. They can build up pressure for quite a while before something breaks. So that's what makes it really hard to forecast these areas. So, I mean, this 7 that happened was proposed to happen like a month ago, and we never saw it until now when we got a second round of deep pressure coming up into this area. And then now that we finally see the break happening, it is a really big break. And so after that initial 7, it seems like we've just had continued movement in the plate with all these aftershocks. So this is definitely just built up over quite a significant period. And with all this movement here, we should be seeing compensation movement happening across these other plate boundaries as well. So, I think that's kind of part of why we see the other side of the Pacific also lighting up with tremor swarms and other decently large activity. So over here by the Virgin Islands, I thought maybe this was going to be slowing down, but it looks like it has actually completely set off following that 7 event, as well as looking all the way over here in Europe. Things got quiet a little bit here, and then now we see a resurgence of 4s going into southeast Europe here. So it hasn't gone past these areas, but looking at the Mediterranean, Greece, Western Turkey, and just below that, we see 4s popping off all the way across. So just this happening in one region of the world can definitely impact the rest of the planet. So that's what we see going on there. Just take a quick look at this here. This thing keeps fluctuating every day, but we're at about roughly 90 M3 earthquakes for this region, and we're only about a quarter of the way through the year. So again, I think we are going to see overall some sort of spike here, but the M2 quakes are not exactly reflecting that. So it's like we're having this roughly the same amount of earthquakes happening, they're just bigger. And that seems to be kind of a common theme going on in some of these regards. So just double checking the volcanic list here. Quite an uptick in volcanic blasts here. A lot of these have some sort of ash plume coming out of them here. 20,000 foot high, 14,000. And then we got more footage coming out of the volcano in France. What? So it looks like this lava here is flowing over another road, just kind of erupting from the vegetation here. So, that's an ongoing development. And yeah, other than that, I don't really have too much for today. I'm probably going to upload this a little bit earlier than normal. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of go over the space weather in regards to what I said yesterday. it kind of tricked us all, I think. None of the forecasts were really too accurate, but the CME did not, quote, miss us, apparently. But, take it for what it is, just kind of learn from that and move forward. So, I'll just keep working on some of the things I got going on, and that'll do it for today's update. So, hope y'all enjoyed, got something out of it. Please like and subscribe for more. Visit this website if you want to see what's going on here. And, well, share this video if you dare. And as always, I'll catch you all in the next.